Howdy ho, neighbors.
Let's go. I am.
You're doing a chicken dance, just like the banh mi place we were just talking about. We won't go there, audience.
No.
We're not going to go there, are we? Actually, I did not start record, so I should do that. We should record the podcast. What do you think?
Details.
Nah, overrated. iOS WWDC day. I don't know if we'll have time for any other thing.
All
What
Apple.
do you reckon?
All Apple.
All Apple? I mean, hang on, I just opened up the wrong thing. I had some. Well, last week I had Apple's transition to ARM rumors, ARM rumors. It's no longer rumors.
That was, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Did we talk? We talked about that ages ago, though. Yeah,
we did. I had some good clips. But let me just give you a sneak preview of what I had. Here it is.
We are going to begin the transition from the PowerPC to Intel processors, and we are going to begin it for you now and for our customers next year.
Who was that, Kelvin? Mystery voice.
Federici.
Well, that wasn't a scripted video. It was a proper keynote from 2005.
What the fuck?
You getting it yet?
Play it again. Play it.
We play it again.
We are going to begin the transition from the PowerPC to Intel processors, and we are going to begin it for you now and for our customers next year.
2 years?
That's right. 15 years ago, they went to Intel. That's when they announced they were going to Intel.
Yeah.
And here we are today.
Okay, shall we?
I'm just going to adjust the screen a little bit.
How do we sound, by the way? Do we sound good?
So we testing.
Hello.
I'm coming through. You just
hello. You're looking good on my end. You want to play another clip?
Yep.
I can just check the volume.
Another one I was going to play last week then.
Please tell me we're going to see the console here. You got to show us the console. Give us a price. Give us a release date, please.
The PS5.
That'll do, I think. Yeah. That guy has 4.6 subscribers. Million.
Who's that?
Well, not 4.6. 4.6 million subscribers. His name is TMarTN2. Tomatin?
Tomatoes?
Tomatin2, yeah. Interesting find. So PS5,
No.
not much, right?
Not what we're talking about. No price, no talk.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let me just look up my intro. Episode 149. Okay, I'll stick with my intro from last time, I think.
I've got a good one.
Last week. I think I had that ready. Go on. All right. I just feel a bit get a bit rusty once you have a break. It's a bit like me not running for a couple of weeks. You've been running though.
2Ks, man.
Whoa. It's only a couple of months to the bay run. The bridge run. Okay. A 3, 2, and a 1. Hello and welcome to episode 149 of the Naked Tech Podcast. It's the show that I'm going to start again, sorry.
Okay.
I hesitated for some reason.
I thought you were going to go all the way, but
I still can't get it out. The lazy couch. It was like, yeah. Okay. Lazy couch is dead. Everyone.
Oh wait, somebody's chatting to us in the room.
What?
SY.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello, SY from Melbourne. Hope you're well. Not infected.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Live television. Okay. 3 and a 2 and a 1. Hello and welcome to episode 149 of the Naked Tech Podcast. It's the show that gives you everything you need to know about consumer tech, the internet, and all things wayward brewing.
My name is Kelvin Lee. Are you team high five or are you team praying hands?
Oh, I know about this. This is not High Five, the kids band from the 90s, is it, Kelvin? Actually, you probably wouldn't know about that.
I would. S Club 7? Before or after S Club 7?
Okay.
How far back are we going here?
This is like even younger kids. Like it was a show. Anyway, this is probably getting off track, but yes, I know what you mean. It's the emoji debate.
I always thought it was praying hands.
So hang on. So Google thinks it's praying
high
hands,
five.
or
Apple thinks it's praying hands,
Google
but Slack is praying hands as well, I think. Yeah.
And how are we finding this out? It's because Apple's finally introduced a search feature in emoji. Is that right? Yeah. So we're going to cover WWDC. We're probably going to go for the whole episode, which happened tomorrow. Yesterday morning, I again got up for it, and I've not been sleeping since then because I woke up at 2 o'clock.
You cannot do it.
I think the tradition's dead, Kelvin. Officially, like I was actually half asleep and I didn't even get out of bed to watch it, like on my Apple TV. I was just watching it on the phone. So I think that's the last time.
But a little bit more about WWDC if you've never heard of it. It's basically Apple's big developer conference, and all the new stuff that makes your phone, computer, watch all work gets updated. And there were definitely a lot of things to talk about this year.
And it was a bit of a different one this year, 2020. Everything is a little bit different. That's probably the theme for the year. So everything was pre-recorded. Tim Cook was, he didn't even say the good morning, like 5 times in a row, because there was no stage. Although he did sort of open in the stage, an empty stage. The production value was quite good.
It was superb. Think of that? Like that was movie-esque, cinematography and scripting. I felt still strange though. The drone videos of Cupertino. Still very strange. I felt like part of the appeal was that the fans at WWDC and people flying from all over the world. I know that's all dead, but I wish there was a way they could have featured some people reacting to what they were saying live. I felt that would have been more real.
So they had some of this in the Microsoft Build conference probably about a month ago, and that some of it worked, I guess, but like it doesn't really. I don't know. I've been listening to certain podcasts and everyone's doing it remotely, just like us, because we've been doing that from the very beginning. And they put in like fake audiences, because like the Infinite Monkey Cage, which is an amazing podcast, right? I don't know, Brian Cox and those guys, science-based, and recently they've been putting like fake crowd noises, like fake applause and fake laughter. I was just like, guys, no, it's not cool. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get into WWDC. Can I just play a very quick thing? And this kind of bothered me a little bit. It was the transition music from presenter to presenter.
At Apple, we believe privacy is a fundamental...
It's jazzy.
What's with that?
I guess very jazzy.
Very jazzy. Jazz hands. It didn't really fit in with the theme, or, like it's not anything anyone wanted, basically. All right, so let's go to iOS 14. That was the headliner. Probably that and the macOS, but what were your highlights?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a highlight, but I'm an Android user, and I'm pretty sure everyone's going to point this out, but I felt like 80% of everything that was announced was a Android feature, or or it was inspired by Android. And you know what? I don't care. I feel like there's two main competitors in the mobile OS space, and they're bound to copy things here and there. Considering that Apple, Android's been copying Apple for years now, so go ahead, do the widgets, do everything.
Well, I mean, if you want to go down that path, then Android wouldn't exist without
absolutely
iOS. Yeah, that's all pretty valid. I feel like, especially with widgets, because that's that's the thing that Android's had for 10 years, probably from the very beginning. Widgets, we know that Apple have been, playing around with that. On the what part of the screen is that when you sort of swipe right? It's not the home screen, but it's the
Yeah.
sort of the notification
Oh, yeah.
area, right? So widgets have been there for, probably for the last 3 or 4 iOS versions. I think they just wait, like they don't do it just because someone else is doing it. It's like they're not doing this because they can't. I think that's pretty clear, right?
Yeah, and one of the funny comments I read on Reddit was like this year, like a lot of people have been jailbreaking their phones to do widgets, and apparently a lot of these features you can now find iOS 14 were being jailbroken into iOS 13. So maybe they are watching the jailbreakers. And for those who don't know, yeah,
Oh, they're definitely doing that.
yeah,
Yeah, they've been doing that for years. Now, quick question for you, Kelvin. You're an Android user at present. Do you use widgets?
you know what? Let's do a live. Let's see what's on my phone at the moment.
Yeah.
I use one widget, and that's just time and weather.
Weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I mean, yeah, all the Android fanboys are saying, "Oh, we've had it for 10 years." But like, do you actually use it? I think this is the time that, people will start using it, and I am banking that the next whatever Android version is going to be next year. There's no Google I/O this year, so there was no announcement in that regard. I'm sure they're going to be creating, widget experiences similar to what iOS 14 is doing. Now, how you do it is quite clever because you've got the jiggle mode, so you hold down a particular app and it jiggles around to move things around. So you can now do that on that left part of the screen, which I don't know what to call at the moment, where the current widgets are, and then you can just drag it over to your home screen. So that seems like a fairly easy thing to do for anyone. I think even my mum can work out how to do that. Actually, I'll take that back. She doesn't know how to move apps around at all.
But you know what? Soon that will be a
Yeah.
problem, right, with the whole app library. But the thing about widgets and the thing about anything that's Android based is there are very few controls in the Android ecosystem. Hence why there's a lot of bad widgets, a lot of bad apps. And we just know that Apple's going to execute it a lot better, and third-party developers on iOS are going to develop it a lot better. So either way, I feel like Android's going to win, because if you are a developer who is working an app for both Android and iOS, and you would have to create a widget for iOS now, it makes sense that you would copy the same quality of widget over to Android as well. So I think everyone wins here.
Yeah, if anything, I think developers will, treat this seriously. Give it a little bit of thought, right? Because I'm thinking that Android users don't really use widgets, so developers don't really bother. But then again, we'll get to see. I think Apple has been experimenting with this, tracking usage of that widget page. Let's call it page 0. I just made that up. Is that what it's called? Anyway, usage of that. I mean, I only go there to see my battery levels. So I think if I think about what I will do, like what my home screen will look like from now on, that's a pretty big thing for me, as you know, how my home screen looks, color-coded and everything.
Tell us a bit about that, and tell us if you're a fan of the new app library view.
I'm definitely not going to use the app library. I recently did a Marie Kondo of my phone. So I'm going into 3 pages. I've got the common apps, I suppose, in the first 2 pages, and everything else is on the 3rd page in folders already. So I mean, app library, I don't know if I can disable it. Like if I go to the 4th page, I think that's going to be the app library essentially. So that's one way to look up apps or look for apps, but you can do that anyway by swiping down. So I don't know. It's not something I'm going to use, but yeah, like if I use a big widget on say page 1, that means I'll have to move around some other apps. At the moment, can I show the Twitch audience maybe? It's a very
Yeah.
Can you see that? It's a bit bright, but it's color coded, and 2nd page is like so. Yes, I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. We will see. Luckily, and big props to Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD, because he is obviously the biggest tech YouTuber out there, and he's already loaded iOS 14, the developers version, on the very phone that I just showed, iPhone 11 Pro. And he's found a couple of things that not many people have been talking about. I will play this clip from Marquez. Now, this is from a tweet that I saw probably this morning, as he was making the video that he just posted a few hours ago. And this is going to be about a accessibility feature.
Just wanted to show you guys my personal favorite thing that I've done, which is enable double tapping the back of the phone to open Google Assistant. I promise I'm not doing any tricks. Double tap the back. It's an accessibility setting. It's pretty great. Video coming soon.
Yeah, so there was a very subtle double tap. You might have heard it through the headphones. Like just a little tap with your index finger as you're holding the phone. That's going to activate actions or commands. So one of them you can set is for Google Assistant.
Is it using some sort of the gyro sensors to sort of detect the vibrations from your finger? Can you tap anywhere?
I mean, he didn't really talk about like whether it works every time, or like I'm assuming it could be anywhere. Like maybe just naturally where I'm sure Apple does this, right? Like in the testing with their own staff members is like where is that point? Like no one's going to be tapping on the corners of the back, I don't think, unless you have giant hands like Marquez. So yeah, I'm sure they thought about it, but I mean, I use the quick actions accessibility features. Like if you press the what is it, the home button, not the home button, what do you call it, the power button 3 times, and the voiceover mode gets activated, and I have to do that for my job to test accessibility features of a website, because a website needs to be read out. But I think this is another way to, like, without having to unlock your phone with your face, go into some setting to activate it, or even you could do it just as you're holding it. The other thing that he tested was through I forgot the name of it. What is a if this then that feature on the iPhone iOS?
What feature?
No, you can program it so that
Siri.
you can use Siri to
action,
activate
Siri something.
Yes, Siri actions. Let's go with that. And he was able to. What did he want to do? I think he wanted to do something with his Tesla.
He mapped Siri
that's
to load Google Assistant or something hilarious like that. And I watched that. So you can basically set it to double tap or triple tap. And single tap would be ridiculous because it would activate all the time. I think it's.
You're right though. It might only be the more recent phones.
Yeah, I think it's okay. It's kind of cool. Like at one point, every Android phone had that squeezing function, especially the Pixel devices where you squeeze the phone. Like, come on. Can we? Is this the state of innovation now, where we're squeezing and tapping our phones?
It kind of reminds me of like an ad that we were shooting some years ago, Kelvin. It was like we had to hold 2 phones. I had to hold the phone. What was that called?
Yeah, it was like the NFC payment systems. Never made the never made the TV waves at all. The airwaves. Sad.
Right. Here's another feature that Marquez found in his testing.
And then in the improved, faster camera app, when taking a night mode photo, it gives you a gyroscopic guide to help you keep the phone still to take a better handheld picture. Another one is if you're FaceTiming and the AI detects that someone in that group FaceTime call is using sign language, it will move them up to the most prominent, biggest spot so everyone on the FaceTime can see the sign language.
Yeah, so obviously these were probably too granular for anyone to speak about during the 2-hour keynote. But these are like little touches that I would say only Apple kind of delivers on. And I tweeted this morning, might have been yesterday as well, that really great accessibility features are the ones that everyone end up using. And I feel like the double tap for sure will be one of those. Again, probably not my mum, but like I'd certainly be using that as a quick action to do something. I'm not sure what I will do, but if it's Google Assistant, maybe I'll use Google more
And
rather than
I
Siri.
totally agree. I think accessibility is where some of the battle is going to be won because I saw a couple of videos on the Android 11 preview, and obviously Google Assistant, you can now use it to navigate your phone. You can say things like, open Twitter, send tweet, scroll down, scroll up, and it looked like it was super responsive, and it knew exactly what you were saying. And this is, from I saw a version of Dieter doing it. I saw it from The Verge, and I saw a version of Marquez doing it. So different accents, and that worked really well too. So I think that's definitely more.
Well, yeah, the voice is definitely a bridge to being able to talk to our computers one day. Still stand by that. Now, what's another thing? Should we talk about app clips?
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, especially in countries where, either your 4G or 3G service is very limited or the internet isn't quick. So what it basically does is you can use specific little bits of an app without downloading an app. So the examples they shown were going to a cafe and you want to collect a stamp on your phone without actually downloading the app. You just quickly use an ad clip with that new QR code that they're using, which is kind of cool, which I feel like QR codes have been needing an upgrade for a while now. And you can just access that without downloading the app. So pretty cool.
Yeah, you could imagine this is a pretty big win for apps like, not necessarily Menulog, but I'm thinking more like Liven. If certain cafes, at least in Australia, I think Liven is a Australian company, and if you want to pay through that app, perhaps they can build something quite quickly. Another thing I experienced, in my travels, like in New Zealand, was paying for parking. So you had to pay for parking. That didn't take money. You had to use an app to do it and connect your credit card and everything. So like those sort of one-off purchases. And I don't know, maybe with the app library, maybe we live in a world where we keep on downloading apps, but we sort of like hide them from our home pages or the home screens, so we don't even know that they're installed. Do you think that's going to happen?
Right. I think isn't that why, like, your OS knows which apps you're using and it sort of deletes them for you, and when you need it, they re-download it because everyone's got so much data and speed now. The other example that I really like is, when you are walking down the street and you need an e-bike, and there's so many companies out there, you're not going to download every single one of them. And the same goes for, the Ubers of the world, all the car sharing services. Why should I have to download an app just to, book a car ride or get an e-bike?
Yes. So I think that's about all from iOS 14. Just sort of trying to see if we missed anything. The big things were widgets, obviously, so it's going to look quite different. Other than that, it's not a huge change. The bigger changes are coming from bigger devices, which we'll cover in a second. Messages, iMessage, you can mention someone. That's kind of boring.
The rest is kind of boring. Like there's a couple of edge cases, like using your phone now to unlock your BMW. I feel like that's going to take a few years.
For the specific audience of for the ones that are going to get the new 5 series.
It's way too. It's going to take forever for everyone to get on board. Look how long it took to get Android and iOS in your car audio system. So it's going to take a while. A couple of updates for Apple Maps that include EV routes as well as cycling directions. Very minor things. I think we've already gone through the big ones.
New hairstyles in Memojis. You can wear a mask, like a medical mask in your Memoji. Hello 2020. And picture in picture. I think that's probably the other thing that's going to be used quite a lot. I think like most people would be used to it by now because you could do that through WhatsApp.
Yeah, I could do it through Android as well, and I never found it particularly useful. Even with the S10 Plus that I have, and the screen's huge. When I exit YouTube, I exit YouTube. And why do I need play in the background while I receive a phone call or read a message in that little PIP box? It just doesn't make any sense.
I've got a use case for you, Kelvin. So I've been playing this in the lockdown phase, virtual escape rooms.
No.
Have you heard about this concept? So a bunch of us get together. We're using House Party on our phones, and then we're on our laptops, solving puzzles together. So, but it does require collaboration. You have to sort of sometimes tell another person, what the codes are. So what you have to do is actually take a photo with your phone, but like you've got House Party, you're kind of FaceTiming with them on House Party. So when you open the camera app, then you lose that connection. So I think for that, as long as House Party uses the right APIs,
yeah, and
that's gonna
I
help
think
with
this is a good segue into iPadOS 14 because we're going to see more real-time multitasking, in terms of what you're used to on your PC and your Mac, where two things are actually running at the same time. Apple traditionally doesn't like doing that because it hogs up a lot of RAM. But yeah, I think we should move on to iPadOS.
Certainly. The thing that I've got here with a clip from Marquez, of course, is the Apple Pencil. It's not a new pencil. There was no hardware announced, but this is a new feature coming to iPad OS.
So Scribble lets you handwrite in any text field, and any text you write or take notes in will automatically be converted to text that you can then copy and paste into other places and search with universal search. Super powerful OCR, really useful.
I'm going to enjoy that feature. So I think the iPad is possibly the easiest or the best way to fill out some electronic form on a website or something like that. So rather than, you have to, depending on how they're done, accessibility, of course, you have to, put the focus on the cursor in the right field, do next, or, you got the weird situation of the keyboard coming up and down. Sometimes the keyboard is covering the next field, all that sort of stuff. Now you can just literally write on the fields like a form. So that's a good thing. It might actually help me with my job.
You know what? Like, there's no competition for the Apple Pencil and the iPad. I think the Note series probably comes closest, and this feature is already available in the Note. But I would love to speak to anyone who owns a Note and see how often they use their little stylus pen. So yeah, I think this further solidifies the Apple Pen experience and the Scribble experience on an iPad, and there's no competition.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to write on websites. I think that's the main thing, and that's going to be automatically converted into text that you can copy and paste into something else. So in terms of workflow in the office, I'm definitely going to use my iPad a whole lot more after this. I'm on the I have no idea what generation iPad is, but it's iPad Pro. It's not the one with the square edges. So hopefully, it's going to support that. What else with iPad? There's not too much. I think, this is iOS in general, but if you get a phone call and, working from home, my iPad's going off all the time because people are calling me, but then, I'm in the iOS world, my iPad rings as well as my phone. Yeah. So if I'm on my iPad, then rather than the whole screen, being activated or being taken over by should I answer or not, it's just a little drop down.
Yeah, and that's an Android thing as well. I'm not sure if I should do that every time we mention an Android-like feature, but it's just in general, it's a better user experience.
I think with that though, like I said, a lot of these features is not because Apple couldn't figure out how to do it. I think timing is one of them. I feel like this particular example is just they probably just didn't prioritize this feature that much because if I think about it, I mean, sure, it was kind of annoying that it took over the page, but was it that annoying? I'm not sure. Yeah. Siri as well. So Siri has also been compacted. And hopefully I'm not triggering all the phones out there. Should we go to watchOS?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just do a very quick, very gimmicky clip from Kevin Lynch, who is the father of watchOS.
Our approach here is using machine learning models to determine...
Okay, I should have set that up. This is about the watch detecting that you're washing your hands, of course.
In motion, which appears to be hand washing, and then use audio to confirm the sound of running water or squishing soap on your hands.
During this, you'll get a little coaching to do a good job. You'll see a countdown along with haptics and sounds to make sure you wash as long as you're supposed to.
Right. This is very
Yeah,
Apple.
but because I spent way too much time on Reddit
Very
trying to
2020
read what
as well.
people think of this, there's going to be a lot of weirdos out there going to try to trick it to do while they're doing other things. This is a family show, so I'm not going to go too far, and this is the very disgusting world that is Reddit. But people are going to try it. I'm surprised it uses the microphone to try and pick up audio cues. I've never thought about whether the Apple Watch is receiving or listening to my voice as much as the phone, but I'm guessing now that's a yes. So yeah, it's a real insight into how all this works.
I think this is for a tap with running water, right? So if you're using a hand sanitizer, is it gonna, I don't know, will it detect that you're washing your hands?
I want to know.
Okay, with the
I want
gyro,
to know
you
how
can
much testing was done. I just imagine a bunch of guys, in the toilet, just going, "It's not working. What are we doing wrong?" So if they ever release that video,
do you think it's actually sensing like echoes in the room to make sure it's in the bathroom?
But what if I'm washing my hands outdoor? There's a lot of variables here.
Yeah, lots of problems with this one. Yeah. But I think they can't really go wrong, right? Like, yeah, so if they get it wrong, so what, sort of thing. What else we got with the Apple Watch? We got the sleep tracking finally.
So this is the thing. I have a Fitbit Versa, which is, Fitbit's take on smartwatches, and I've been tracking my sleep since day one, and it's been amazing. I didn't realize this feature wasn't available for the Apple Watch. So it was a huge surprise for me.
Nope. I mean, there are third-party apps that are doing it in different ways. The one I use actually picks up on the sound. So I have the speakers on the whole night. I have to be charging my phone. Actually, it's not from my watch, actually. So all the sleep tracking happens through your iPhone at the moment. Now, this poses a bit of a problem for Apple Watch owners, which is if you're required to be wearing the watch while you sleep, when do you charge the watch?
So that is exactly why I think they didn't do it. Because my Fitbit Versa lasts for 2-3 days, there isn't a problem. So I charge it usually when I'm working at my desk, and I just charge it. And I never charge it overnight because I want to track my sleep. Do you charge it overnight?
I think, how do I do this? So I think if I'm tracking my sleep, then I like to wear the watch as well, just because it's tracking my heartbeat as well as the phone sensors. So I have been trialing, sort of getting up and getting ready phase, just charge for, say 20, 30 minutes. That seems to be enough for the whole day. Might get up to maybe 80%, 85%, but that's definitely enough to go for a whole day. So I think that's the angle that they're trying to do. I think Marquez mentioned that they actually somewhat hinted that in the keynote as well. So like 30 minutes of charging your Apple Watch actually, goes a long way. So yeah, like say you've been wearing your watch all day and you have it on as you sleep, you're probably likely to have maybe 20-30% battery life. So when you wake up on the watch now, like it's got a nice, good morning sort of message. It'll, tell you exactly what the battery situation is. I don't know if that's on the website there, but and then I guess the point is, if you have a charger just next to your bed, maybe as you get ready, like hopefully you're showering still just as you go out.
Brush
if you go out, that's
brush your
pretty
teeth
rare these days.
Really slowly.
Put today's show on for a little bit. Listen to Carl Stefanovic. Yeah.
Other than that, not much in the watchOS space. A couple of cute things, like you can now share your watch faces. Health is going to be a big thing, I think, not just for the watch, but also iOS in general. And I think we can move on to the big one, no pun intended. The Big Sur.
Yes, sir. Big Sur. macOS 10.16 or 11? So it's only 11, and they didn't say this at the keynote. Was it until the State of the Union that the 11 thing came out? But it's only for the ones with the new microchip. So if you're still using Intel, it'll be 10.16.
So yes, so we've spoken about the whole Mac Apple moving away from Intel for a couple of weeks now, and it's now confirmed. So Apple will be creating their own ARM-based Apple Silicon chips, and they did.
They didn't mention ARM at
Really?
all.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing most consumers or people who are Apple fans won't really care, where the architecture comes from.
Mm.
But they also showed a demo, right, of a iMac running a Bionic A12XZ chip. How did that go down
Mm.
when you were watching it?
I think it was pretty good. I think they've got the big software houses on board. That's Microsoft with their Office suite of apps and Adobe. So Photoshop, that's all ready to go. That's using ARM architecture already. We probably won't go into the details of how developers can support both systems. Now I've got a bit of a clip, and you had a bit of a clue earlier on before we started recording, but here is, let's just say someone from Apple, possibly a few years ago, talking about something.
And Rosetta allows us to translate PowerPC to Intel. It lets us run existing PowerPC binaries on Intel. So existing apps run.
That was Steve Jobs, of course, 2005 WWDC, and that's when they announced that they were going to go to Intel. So 15 years later, they sort of come back around, not back to PowerPC because that's quite old tech. However, this is their own. They're calling it Apple Silicon. So not, A14 or whatever they're up to now. So yeah, this allows a lot of things to happen. So a lot of the macOS Big Sur update was to do with the new design language.
Yes.
So it took me a while to actually figure it out, but this is all to do with, bringing, it's almost combining iOS design to
And
the Mac.
I'm going to make a bit of a prediction here, like moving to ARM, which is what your iPad and your Apple iPhone uses. The apps can move across now very easily between, your desktop and your phone or your tablet.
Okay, so I have a clip on that, Kelvin. It's more than just moving. So this is who is this guy? This is Ali Oza, who is one of the engineers, and this is actually from Leo Laporte watching it, watching the State of the Union, which happened I think a couple of hours after the keynote. But I went through that. It was very interesting, a bit nerdy. But this is some of that.
We are planning to make unmodified iPhone and iPad apps available in the Mac App Store once we launch our Macs with Apple Silicon.
So important.
In fact, all the apps that users purchased on iPhone and iPad that are eligible to run on the Mac will simply show up as purchases in the Mac App Store as well.
Yeah, so they don't actually have to do anything. It's just available. So if you've bought anything on the iOS App Store, then it'll just appear on your Mac
so
App
if
Store.
anything, the iPad OS is going to be so much more like a laptop or a PC or your desktop, because Microsoft is building Microsoft Office, like the real Microsoft Office with mouse support and keyboard, etc., onto the Apple Silicon. Now, Microsoft has always had an ARM computer in their Surface. They have an ARM-based Surface computer. So for them to move across, it's super easy, I'm guessing, rather than starting from scratch. Like your iPad will now soon replace the MacBook Air, I feel. Give it, 3 to 5 years, there will not be a MacBook anymore, I feel. I feel like the iPad can take over.
It's all starting to make
so
sense now,
clear.
isn't it? I have a prediction as well, Kelvin. I have a prediction. I have a couple of predictions, but this is kind of related. Now you have iOS apps that you can run from your Mac. Say your MacBook, like the MacBook that I'm using right now. MacBook Air. MacBook Air? Yes, it is, isn't it? Always forget. So what is stopping me? So if on my laptop, usually, like I'm going to be doing my banking. I'm going to be making some transactions through some web interface through a browser. If I can do the same thing, which is more like let's say it's not the iPhone sort of long slabby screen, but more for the iPad based screens, then why wouldn't I use that?
Pretty much.
instead
Why do you need a browser?
for my Mac? Why do you need a browser? So I think this is going to lead to the death of the browser. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
10 years from now.
I'm trying to think of the things I do every time I switch on my computer. What are some of the things I do, right? I watch YouTube. I watch Netflix. I watch Stan. I go to Reddit. I go to, read the papers. I do some banking. I do my work. Everything has an app on my phone. So I totally agree with you. I think it's just going to be how it is. I think, there's going to be an app for everything. How do you listen to this podcast? How do you watch this podcast? It's all going to have, it's all going to be seamless and it's all going to work.
Netflix is an interesting example because I know a lot of people just watch Netflix on their laptops right now. How would they do this? Like if they know that there's like because I don't think there is a Mac app for Netflix.
There isn't.
That you can there isn't. Oh, there isn't.
Because it doesn't provide there's nothing that they could do in an app that you can't do on the browser, right? It's super optimized to play video.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess it's sort of on Windows. It's in their ball court now to, I don't know, are they going to do something similar?
On the flip side, Chrome OS has been trying to do this whole Android integration for years now, and we haven't seen that really happen. And I think typical Apple fashion, they waited and they studied and they observed, and they know it's going to take a bit more time to get it right because Google's been trying for years now. And I think they'll do a much better job because having a weird port of an app just open up in your computer is not going to work well. You're going to have to do more than that. So I can't wait to see how it all pans out.
While you're talking there, I'm just trying to imagine what my mum would do because that's the big test for the litmus test for anything going mainstream, I think. And I think for mum, like what I've had to do to set it up on her laptop at home is to build shortcuts to websites that opens up in Chrome. So if the same thing happened, then you can, she's using a Windows, so that's why I'm sort of wondering what Windows might do. But say she was using a MacBook, she will just probably use the app instead without even knowing the difference.
Yeah, totally. I think it will be an Apple thing only for a very long time because, like it or not, people who use desktops, it's still, I don't know what the market share is, but I'm going to guess, 70 to 90% depending on where you are. And Windows doesn't have an app store. Well, it does, but it's pretty rubbish. Skype keeps failing on me. But, I think if everyone goes to ARM, then you're going to get some synergies and we'll see what happens. I know.
You said synergies, drink. This is a 2-year plan for Apple. So this was announced by probably Tim Cook and Craig Federighi that there'll be this transition period. I do have a supercut from the keynote later in the show, probably to end the show. But if I could do another supercut, it probably is the word transition because I use that quite a bit. And Apple does this pretty well. I guess they have experience from 15 years ago, but they're doing everything right. I think the developer community are, it's annoying, but it's kind of a necessary evil, right? At this point in time, because they're going to get much faster machines. I think that's already been proven. Like they don't have to rely on third-party chip makers, and there's been lots made of how they've had to wait for certain technologies to come through from Intel. So yeah, this opens the door for a lot of things. And especially if you're like me, stuck in the ecosystem, and being stuck is probably the right phrase right now, because how could I get out of this?
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point, right?
Yeah.
if it works, it works. So they're fixing all the little things for it to work, like, you know, not every device in your home like ringing and taking over whenever there's a phone call, and it will get better and better.
Actually, that's a good point, because we should probably cover AirPods, the new AirPods Pro, which I paid an arm and a leg for recently. And one of the things would be being able to, like, with all your devices, you know, connected. And I've got, let me try to count on this MacBook. I've got an iPhone. Probably have 2 iPhones somewhere. I've got this iMac. I have an iPad Pro. There's probably another iPad that's turned off. You know, like, if I move from device to device and there's sound coming out of all of those, apparently it's gonna automatically switch from device.
Yeah.
If you have the
The way
AirPods
Marquez
on.
explained it was, it knows when you've picked up a device. Like when you pick up an iPhone, the gyro goes off, and you pick up the iPad, the gyro goes off. So yeah, don't pick.
Is it about that, or is maybe the screen is being activated?
I think it's
probably
a combination of things. I think sooner or later it's going to be app based. Like, for example, like because I work at Amazon, I use Amazon Chime a lot. It knows which computer I'm using to answer calls, and it just drops the other one. So I think there's an element of that somewhere. It has to be app based, but you know, hardware based is a good thing.
And like I said, there was no hardware announced yesterday, and all about software. And one of the firmware updates coming to the AirPods Pro, which is something I'm quite excited about, is spatial audio. Yeah, so I mean, they're being quite clever, and it remains to be seen how successful they will be with this. But I guess, you know, they're using the gyro on the actual AirPods to work out. So if you're watching something at home, spatial audio, like, you can kind of imagine the directional sound that's coming through from the TV. So, you know, that sound should be fixed in space, right? So even if you move your head or rotate your head or neck somehow, like, usually that spatial audio would follow your head, but it'll know that you're sort of sitting down and watching something in a still environment. So therefore the sound will be fixed. However, if you're on a bus or a plane or something like that, where you're fixed in the seat and the thing that you're in is moving, then the sound will follow your head. So yeah, it is clever things like that.
Yeah, and you know, spatial meaning things like 7.1, you know, Dolby support and all the usual funky codes that come with it. It's not new technology, and it's very software heavy. A lot of gamer headsets have, you know, spatial sound for a number of years now, but I think for a little device like that on the go, you know, you can watch an action film, and if a car, you know, flies past the screen, you can hear it go all the way back. I can't wait to hear what you think about it all when it does come over.
Does it surprise you that they were able to do this with the firmware update?
It's all software.
Like, I mean,
it's all software.
No?
There's no, there aren't any gyros in your iPad. I mean, in your AirPods. It's all spatial. It's all, you know, Dolby's mapped this out. All the other, you know, big sound companies have mapped this out. And that's how they do 7.1. That's how they do 5.1 sound. So no, I'm not surprised.
Okay. Well, that's a big list of things. I think this was one of the more jam-packed keynotes and events from Apple in a long time. I guess the headline stuff is widgets on your iPhone. Bixer will have a new architecture to take you into the new era of Apple computing.
You know, it's going to help them with market share, because, you know, if they own their own silicon, then they don't have to, you know, peg their prices to what Intel charged them, and they might be able to make some things cheaper, and more people jump on board. And you know, if you get the MacBook, you know, or the iMac, you know, you want to get an iPhone because it all works together, and it's all part of the bigger plan.
I think Ming-Chi Kuo was quoted just today saying that the new architecture is actually going to be more expensive to source. So I think it's unknown whether, because, you know, they've got no prices or anything, obviously, whether that's going to be passed onto the customers. I feel like they won't do it. I don't know. Yeah. But it is Apple.
Yeah, and don't forget
all, so.
Developer kit that they're sending out for $500 is an iPad and a little sort of Mac Mini with an A12Z chip on it, and that's the same chip in the iPad Pro. So if you can make the same chip for all devices, that's going to be your economies of scale right there. So it really depends on is Mac still considered a pro device? I mean, there's still going to be Intel Macs for a couple of generations, I'm assuming, like for the next 2-3 years. But as a developer, I think you'd be silly not to sort of park your Intel development and start working on, the ARM-based stuff now. So things will slow down drastically for Intel. Intel is really going to suffer, especially with AMD doing so well now in the laptop space. Good luck, Intel.
Bye-bye, Intel. Let's
And on
close the
that
show,
note,
Kelvin.
goodbye to Intel and goodbye to you. Thank you for listening to episode 149, where we love talking about all things tech and telling you what you need to know. Please, you can listen to more episodes. What did we predict from last year? Check out the website, that's nakedtechpodcast.com, and find us on any social network. See you later. Kelvin out.
And Jeff out.
Oh.
All right.
Yes,
So I'm going to play this.
I love it.
Cut. Should I play it on top of this? Okay. Okay. Bye, guys.
It's super simple. It uses NFC, and you just tap to unlock.
With watchOS 7, we're making it super easy to share watch faces.
Wow. I'm super excited to watch Foundation when it comes to Apple TV Plus next year.
So animations are super smooth. Whether I'm scrolling, it runs great. Scrolling is super smooth. Everything you do is just super responsive. Navigating large libraries of DNG images is super fast. As you can see, playback is super smooth. And all your filters are here, and you can apply them in real time.
You know what else was super?
Well done, Craig.
Federici's eyebrows, man. They stood out so much.
Yeah,
because of his hair, it's all white.
More so than before.
They're super.
They probably haven't had a trim for a couple of months.
Anyway, that's thanks,
Craig.
Thanks,
Thank you, Craig.
Sammy and Twitch. We'll catch you soon.